Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Shay Ryan Douglas here from the Earth Heroes TV platform, and I'm joined with Alex Tyson. Really exciting conversation. I've just recently got in touch with Alex through my sister Kira, who's good friends with him. And Alex is also, more importantly, the CEO of a health and wellbeing company that is scaling in a big way, I hear, over the last few years. So thanks for joining us, Alex. I'm really keen to jump into this conversation around health and also even more so around, entrepreneurial business journeys that is in alignment with supporting humanity's, well-being collectively and also individually, more importantly, because we're going to dive into, what business it is that you are the CEO of, what that looks like, and I'm really keen to explore, some of the challenges that you've faced in order to get you where you are now, but also what it takes to be able to cultivate an environment for a business and a team to be able to be on the same vision, on the same path, and have collective values that is going to not necessarily just benefit one individual, but benefit a collective community. So excited for this conversation. Thanks for joining us, man.
Mate, what a kickoff. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah. So you've gone through a bit of a rebrand recently, I hear, with the Found Space and the saunas. Maybe you just want to share a little bit around what the main focus of your business is. I'm curious as well, because you've been on pretty passionate health journey, particularly with, the hydration piece, the nutrition piece, but also looking at, ways that we can cleanse our body through fasting. And that's where I assume the sauna has become a really valuable tool to assist on that journey. So maybe you want to share a little bit about your journey and what's brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll start where we are now. My company's called Found Space. We specialize in infrared saunas and health education. We essentially help recreate the home space to better serve our well-being. And that's where we are now, and that's kind of where we're going. But we used to be called iHealth Saunas, and it was a business that my parents started. And right from the moment when I got involved in the business, I said, guys, we ain't selling saunas. Like, we're helping people with their health, and that really inspired me. I would read testimonials back from people, and they were using our saunas and their lives were changing. In some cases, they were really in a bad place. And even still to today, we work with some people who are dealing with some serious health issues, and they use our sauna and they help heal and improve their quality of life. So right from the start, that was kind of where I was at, like, I didn't want to be working with my parents if they were selling roof tiles or anything. Like, it was the health side of it that I loved. And so fast forward to today, and when we rebranded at the end of last year, it was to double down on that. Yes, infrared sauna is the core of what we do, but it's so much more than that. And Found Space, our brand, now allows us to expand and to be able to do more, and ultimately to help more people in bigger ways. At the moment, we do sauna, and we give people tailored sessions on how to use it, different temperatures and times and oils and other ways you can kind of get the most out of your sauna session. But then people using sauna start to feel better, and they start to want to learn about other things that they can do in their health and wellness. And that's why we have our podcast, and that's why we have a lot of educational videos online to help people learn about the other areas of their health that perhaps could improve upon or change or work on to achieve high levels of health. And so Found Space now allows us to do that as we grow into other countries and go around the world. It allows us to be much more than just an infrared sauna company.
That's huge, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I love that rebranding to expand to not just like be a product, but actually, add a lot of value through the education of allowing people and their families to go through a transformation. Feels like we're in a, such a moment of collective transformation in human history. There's so much that is unraveling before our eyes, and having these tools and having these these functional systems, such as a sauna, that is necessary in order for us to go through that journey of healing. How do you really like bring that into the brand to, you know, focus on other areas? I guess you're adding more value by adding educational content and you know, really great conversations through podcasts. But what is it from, you know, a buyer's perspective that they're choosing to, you know, go down this path with you guys? And it seems, you know, you're really positioning yourself in a way that you are giving them tremendous amount of support in that process. But I'm just curious as to, you know, how you can be best of service to these people by, you know, essentially purchasing a sauna, but going further than that, you know, expanding the reach through what you're offering. So what does that take?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. You know, we talk about the sauna really being a catalyst for people. It's like the first part of the journey. Now people might come and they might have some mental health challenges going on, or maybe they want to reduce some sort of chronic pain or chronic inflammatory condition that they're dealing with. Maybe they want to improve their sleep. And the infrared sauna really addresses some of those kind of fundamental challenges people are having through the way that they work on the cardiovascular system, on the nervous system, etc. And what we find is that when people start to use sauna regularly, they start to just have this elevated level of vitality, right? And I'm talking like 3 or more times a week, you know, like using the infrared sauna is like going to the gym. If you go once a week, probably not going to experience what you want to and get to where you want to get to, perhaps. So you start using the sauna regularly, and it acts as this catalyst, this powerful kind of tool. And that is kind of where the snowball starts. People want to learn a little bit more. At Found Space, we talk about the fundamentals of health, right? So we talk about hydration, we talk about nutrition, we talk about movement, we talk about sleep, we talk about sunshine, we talk about reducing stress in our life, because stress will undo all of the good we're doing in all of those other areas, you know. And that's where we start to get those pillars of education into people and start to help them build the rituals in their life, because achieving a high level of health or just experiencing good health generally, it's because we have rituals in our life that have gotten us to that point, right? I often say, I wrote a book recently and I probably harped on about it a bit too much, but I said, like, we right now are an expression of every choice and decision that we made in our life up until this point, and our health is the same, right? So if we want to change the way that we're feeling and we want to, you know, improve something or have less of this, whatever it might be, then we need to change the rituals that we're doing. We need to change the daily actions that we're taking every single day to be somewhere different, right? So whatever we're dealing with at the moment is a result of the actions and the choices we've been making up until this point. And so people start to use sauna. It's this powerful catalyst in their life. It's addressing so many areas of their health. They start to feel better. Then it's a matter of, okay, cool. Now let's build a real ritual around that sauna use. And then let's look at the other fundamental areas of health where we can also change some rituals. And it might be real simple. It might just be like carrying a water bottle around with you all day because you're aware that maybe you could be drinking some more water, right? Or maybe it's like changing that coffee ritual into like a medicinal mushroom ritual, perhaps, right? Much easier on the nervous system or on the adrenals, right? So that's kind of where we come in at the moment, and where we're working on a lot at the moment in developing is those fundamental products that we can have in our home that address those areas as well. So people are coming to us with a real challenge of like, Alex, like, my sleep sucks. You know, I'm getting like 6 hours a night and I'm waking up and I got to go pee. It's like, cool. All right. Well, sauna is going to help with that, but there's some other things that we can be doing and we can be changing in the home space, because ultimately like the home space is what influences so much of our health because we're in it all the time. What are the other things we can change in that home space to really address that? And that's where our real development and focus is at the moment.
Yeah, nice, man. That's fantastic. And I'm really excited to go into this because I'm curious to hear what, you know, your journey has been on a personal level in relation to your health, and if there's been any catalyst, or maybe perhaps what your biggest challenge has been in relation to health that has set you on this journey to get you where you are now. But before we do that, I just wanted to thank everyone who's tuning in now and listening into this conversation. It will be live on Spotify, but you can also watch the free video on YouTube. Just want to ask that if you do find this valuable, this conversation with Alex, feel free to share it with your friends, and just let them know about what Found Space really is. So curious, Alex, what was what's your journey been like with your health? Has it been always perfect, doing lots of saunas, or have you had any challenges, or what has been a big catalyst for you to really go down deeper into this path?
Yeah, it hasn't always been perfect. I think our generation, it's pretty hard to be born with a perfect state of health, right? And then you grow up in popular culture, as I did, and the things that you end up consuming and partaking in are not optimal for human health at all, right? So now, that being said, I didn't have detrimental health issues. I got to my early 20s and I had gastrointestinal issues. Like, man, I'd go out for dinner with some friends, and then like I would be in pain holding in all of this gas and bloating, right?
Wow.
And I'd get home and it'll be like so nice because I could just release all this, and it was horrible. Like, but it's not the end of the world, but it was something I always kind of dealt with, So I had that going on, but actually the real catalyst for me was like twofold. I got to grow up in this sauna business from around when I was like 14 or 15, and from that age, I was seeing sick people all the time, right? Because we had a sauna at home in the early days, and people would come home to use the sauna, and
Wow.
they would always be in similar kind of shapes, like they'd be in chronic pain. They didn't look very energetic, and they just didn't look excited to be alive, And they'd use the sauna, and then they'd walk out, and they'd always have a bit of a glow, and they'd look a bit happier and better. And I learned over time, talking to my parents and eventually starting to work with these people personally as I started being more involved in the business, that they were making similar choices in their day-to-day life, in the things that they ate, the alcohol that they drank, the coffee that they consumed, the lack of sleep that they were getting, the stress that they had in their lives, the fact that they perhaps weren't doing what they really loved, right? And I was just seeing the end result of that. The end result of living in that way for like 40 years seemed, according to my young brain, like I was going to end up in chronic pain and whatever. So I was seeing these sick people all the time. And then the second part of that is, my dad was always the business guy. My mum was always the one into health. And as much as mum preached to my dad, he never looked after himself. And over the last 6 years, I've had to watch dad decline into dementia. And, the way that he lived his life was kind of drinking too much, never slept well, chronic stress. He was so stressed all the time. And I love him because all he wanted to do was provide for us, but he worked every freaking day, man, like every day. And I like some hard work, but it was over the top. And so the link between those three things and Alzheimer's is now very clear. And again, it was just another reminder to me of the way that we live our lives has a massive impact over the quality of our life toward the end of life, right? And so for me, that was enough. That coupled with my gastrointestinal issues, I was like, I got to do something here. There was just this calling. Like, I was going to uni studying mechanical engineering, and after a year and a quarter, I just left.
Wow.
I was like, I got to work in this health space, and I got to heal myself. And that was when I started, getting into veganism and getting up early in the morning, going for walks, activating the body. What a beautiful thing. Can't believe I hadn't done that for 21 years up until that point. Started getting
Yeah.
my Sundays back because I wasn't hungover all the time. All this kind of
Yeah.
stuff started in the early 20s and kind of kicked off
Nice.
from there.
Oh, that's cool, man. And I'm curious if that's like a common theme with a lot of families. I'm really grateful. My father, he's been, recently in the last few years, really on that health journey and made that big switch. But a lot of my friends and a lot of people I know, if their parents are still together or even if they're separate, it seems the male kind of masculine conditioning to hold it all together and, try and put on a brave face and be really strong, but which is very kind of hidden in a way, has this unfolding detrimental effect ultimately to their well-being and to their life. And yeah, it's really interesting. Is your father still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. Yeah, so he's been in a home for the last year and a half now. Yeah. And yeah,
Yeah,
to
right.
your point, it's a real, I mean, I was going to say it's generational, and it kind of is. That being said, there are still a lot of people in our generation who have those beliefs. Again, because they're modeling their parents. Oh, that's how dad did it. I guess that's how I need to do it.
Yeah.
That all happens on a subconscious level, mind you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do see less of that in our generation, which is a good thing. But yeah, I mean, and to their credit, like they wanted to provide for their family because
Yeah.
that was something that more often than not they didn't get from their parents. Like it was hard for their parents to provide for them because they're going through wars and depressions, right? And so for my dad, I know there was nothing more important than him feeling like he provided for his family. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I love him so much for that. And now I have the opportunity to kind of heal through that. And like, yeah, absolutely. I'll provide for my family. And absolutely, I'm going to try my best to be more open and loving and grateful and just kind of and vulnerable, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm too vulnerable even with my team at work, but to me that's
Yeah.
important because I'm trying to break these old molds of like CEO guy, like knows the way we're going and this is how we need to do it. It's like, I don't think that's necessary anymore.
Yeah, nice, man. And that was kind of where I was going with the next question. Is curious to hear how you navigate that space as kind of in a position of leadership of an organization, and someone who people look up to make decisions, and even eventually maybe one day into fatherhood, who becomes the leader of a family. What's your suggestions on what it takes to be a really competent leader in today's business world, but also just applying that to life in general?
Yeah, it's a great question. I talk about this a fair bit. I find it interesting asking people what to them like true leadership is. One thing that comes up often is like authenticity, but then I question, okay, so what does authenticity mean to you? I think it's, and I don't have all the answers here, right? For
Sure.
me, I think that vulnerability is a really important piece there, and honesty, and like that openness, and that ability to say, you know what, I actually don't know,
Yeah.
and that's something I've really kind of come to terms with and grown more into that space, especially over the last 12 months, because our business has gone through quite literally 40% growth year on year for the last 3.5 years now.
Wow.
Right. And
That's huge.
so, yeah, when I took over the business, we had 10 full-time team and we sold like 500 saunas in a year. Last year, we sold over 1,000. We have 25 full-time team across Australia and New Zealand now. We opened in New Zealand the other day.
Nice.
And so one thing in the last 12 months, I just really, as I had more and more people like kind of looking up to me and I'm the leader of this team and everything, just having the ability to actually be okay with not knowing. And oftentimes I do feel like I know, but also like having the ability to get other people in on, some things that I'm not sure about or things that we're working on. But that ability to be like, you know what, I'm actually not sure. And I'll go and give it some thought and we can work on it together. Getting out of my own way on that. Like I have some of the most incredible minds in Australia, it feels like, working on the Found Space team, and empowering them. And sometimes maybe I empower them too much and there's like, Alex, like, can you help us out here, mate? But I really like encourage that and encourage the team to be themselves, you know, and to be perfect in all their imperfection, you know. No one has all the answers. No one knows everything, and no one can be great at everything. And so kind of accepting that in myself and then in the team, you know, yeah, we make mistakes. Like we're growing, we're all kind of learning, and we're all on this same kind of journey of health and trying to achieve higher levels of being, if you will, on the team. So it's just kind of accepting people as they are, and
Yeah.
yeah, I guess knowing when to step in, when to step out. If that makes sense.
Yeah, nice, man. That's a beautiful story, and also to hear the growth that you've had with the business as well. I'm curious in that respect. You know, what has been one of the strategies that you've implemented? As you know, obviously, as a leader, you've done very well to be able to hear other people and get their perspective and gain feedback. I always say that, you know, feedback is love, even though it's hard to receive. It takes, you know, character and humility to kind of alchemize that feedback, which may be negative, and turn it into a positive. But for you to have that, you know, tremendous amount of growth in such a short time, is there any strategies that you've implemented that have enabled the brand to have more coherence, and also the team to have a little bit more similar vision, so that there's this shared kind of wavelength amongst everyone to kind of have a belief in what they're working towards?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the number one thing is culture. And what do I mean by culture? I don't just mean like on every Friday afternoon we play ping pong at 1 o'clock. I mean, although that is also like those kind of fun little business games are fun. But what I mean by culture is like, what is our purpose as a
Yeah.
business? And our purpose at Found Space is to create a healthier world, right? And so as we're bringing on team and getting more people involved, having them understand what that meant to us and to the business was critically important. And on top of that, having people who believed that that's truly what we were here to do, right? When I took over the business, we were just a traditional business, and it was lacking that. And now you walk into Found Space and you can feel there's that collective, like, oh, we're kind of changing the world here. And obviously we're not changing the world, but there's that bigness to what we're doing, and there's that alignment in where we're going. Like, we're creating a healthier world. We're really like helping people change. You know, people are coming to us with debilitating health challenges, and they're coming out the other end empowered and in a better state than they've been in a long time. And so getting the team to really believe in that was the number one most important piece. Because if you're building a business and say you've got 5 people on the team and just one of them just is kind of like, I don't really care, I'm just kind of like doing this job, right? That will just cause speed bumps every step of the way.
Yeah.
And trust me, I went through that and it's hard. And trying to grow and expand and create this and manifest what you kind of know is there is really hard when there isn't that belief, you know, and that kind of long-term future. This is where we're going. This is where we're heading. And I think it's really cool. And everyone else here thinks it's really cool. And so if you don't think it's cool, then maybe this isn't going to work, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And what you said, like really celebrating the successful wins and the transformations, and the service that and the impact that you have on these people's lives. I think that's the really key, man. That's so good, because it becomes like that becomes the ritual and the reminder for the team and the business to be like, yes, like we've really helped these people, we've helped to transform their lives, and that then ripples out and becomes, you know, kind of the goal as you proceed with other clients. So that's fantastic, man.
Exactly. I mean, even we have a meeting every Monday with the entire team, and the first thing we do, we have an icebreaker question just because it's a fun way to start the week. Second thing we do is each week there's a person on the team who has picked the previous week. They have to share a story as to how we've helped someone and how we've helped create a healthier world. the previous week, or as to how we've created a complete and remarkable customer experience. And that just like brings us back in like, oh, that's why we do what we do, because that
Yes.
person had an amazing story, or that person had a great experience, or that didn't go well and then we did this and it fixed it, and in fact it was even better. So like bringing that home every week is really important.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's so important. So I'm curious, like your team sounds like it's expanded and you got, big visions for the future. What do you hope to achieve, in the next 5 to 10 years, and what impact do you want to be having on the world? Are you going to expand? You said over to New Zealand, but has it gone across the world? I'm curious what your vision is for the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So we opened in New Zealand, like quite literally last week. So that was the first time I've
Nice.
ever opened a business in another country. And
Congratulations. Yeah, well done.
yeah, thanks, man. Yeah. Foundspace.co.nz, check it out. But no, that was a really kind of like everything we've been doing. It was a real learning experience. And there's still so much that we'll be learning in opening in another country, which was, it's quite fascinating to be able to go through that experience, And so beyond New Zealand, the reason, or one of the many reasons we chose to go to New Zealand first was test and measure, right? As you do in business, you implement something and then you want to test it and measure it, and then you want to make any adjustments before going back and doing it again. So for the last several years, every element of our business we've worked on being scalable, right? So we created a scalable sales process. We created a scalable operations process. We created a scalable installation process for our product. And we needed to prove that that was all scalable prior to going to another country. So now that we did all that, it was like, okay, it's time for us to prove that this is scalable within countries, not just within states,
Yeah, nice.
And so New Zealand was the logical next step. So we went there. So beyond that, yes, we're looking to other countries, possibly the States as the next place to go. In terms of infrared sauna, it's the biggest infrared sauna industry in the world. So there's that kind of side of it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's more around like, how can we get our message out to as many people as possible? I run a podcast called Finding Space with Alex Tyson. And if someone just comes across that podcast, has a listen and gets something from it, and then they never engage with us again, but they got one thing from that podcast, like, our mission is complete. Like, I'm totally happy, right? If they buy sauna, great, but that's not what it's about,
Nice.
And so beyond selling saunas in New Zealand and America, it's about getting that message out there. In terms of more physical stuff, like I said, we're looking at helping recreate people's home spaces. Unfortunately, the space that we spend a lot of our time in, now that more and more people are working from home, isn't really set up for optimal health and well-being.
Yeah.
And nor are the things that we interact with in our home and our day-to-day. And so that's where we're focusing at the moment. So we may be in other countries, but it may not be just about sauna. I can't kind of give too much away, but
For sure, man.
the sauna is really just kind of the kickboard as to where we're going, and as we kind
That's so cool. Yeah, I love it, man. I'm just going to pull it up on the banner here for those who are watching the live video or watching the replay. Go and check out the website foundspace.com.au to go and learn a little bit more about what Alex is doing, what the community is doing, how they're really empowering people and bringing in, a healthier home, as he talked about. So these infrared saunas, man, I kind of want to get one. So I'll be definitely checking out the website for sure. It sounds awesome. We also got a couple of people tuning in saying, I want a sauna. Health rituals are important. That's so good. It's Kira tuning in there. That's awesome. But I'm curious, man. Normally, I always ask this question to all of my guests, but we're talking about creating a healthier world, as you mentioned, and I'm curious as to, because it seems that having that intention implies that we don't have a healthy world, right? So, what does it take for the world, and what would the world look like if we were fully empowered, fully enlightened, fully embodied in our optimal health? What kind of world would we be experiencing in that space?
Oh, I don't even know if we would need this 3D reality to exist anymore, because we'd be pretty enlightened, I think, in that space.
For
But
sure.
in something that is quite tangible. I think regularly, my partner, Kristen, and I, fiance, I should say, actually, we have been eating mostly raw foods for the last 2 and a bit years now.
Nice.
And through going through that, we have like no rubbish, man. Like none. Like in a week, we'll get like an 8-liter bucket will be like half full, right? Because unfortunately, there's some plastics that you can't recycle and whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just think like, man, and the journey isn't for everyone, and I'm not preaching here, but I think, wow, like imagine if more and more people just ate like that as an example of one little thing which could have a massive impact.
Yeah.
I think overall, like, what does the world look like if we're at these high levels of health? I think there's just more contentment, and there's more opportunity for people to come from a place of love. My experience in getting healthy or healthier, it's an impossible, you can't get to the top of the mountain, I don't think, but my experience is every time I kind of shifted a level up through changing my rituals, I started putting cleaner food in or exercising more, whatever it was. Every time I did that, I felt like there was a bit of like baggage that I let go, and it was easier for me to come from a place of love, and I really kind of feel that, and so in a world where we have healthier rituals, we're not bombarded with all of this kind of advertising and nonsense that we are, and there's less noise, and we're not on social media as much, so we're probably in a better headspace. In that kind of world, I think there's more of an opportunity for like deeper connection and an ability to really come from our heart more, and judge less, and be more present. That's certainly what I feel from my experience.
Yeah, that's huge, man. That's really potent share, and that will be a beautiful world to be in. More heart opening, heart sharing, heart connections. Yeah, I really love the sound of that kind of a world, and it seems that it's coming into manifestation, slowly but surely, and eventually it seems like the inevitable. Like, granted, what you shared around what you guys are doing in terms of helping people transform their home space, and that is essentially working from the inside out in a way, although it's also going deeper within them to go through this journey of doing the sauna, and then they realize, wow, they're having this breakthrough moment, and exploring what's really going on in an internal landscape, and having these mental health shifts from the sounds of it, from having this sauna experience, and then it's like working from the inside out, which is essentially what I feel needs to happen to move forward. And we could probably all agree, looking at the current state of the world, we could definitely do with some massive transformations. So
yeah, man, and I love that. I totally agree. It's doing the work from the inside out. I was reading an author I love, Paul Ferrini, just last night, and just a great reminder of like whatever's going on internally and in here is exactly what we're going to see out there, right? And so if we've got internal bullshit and judgment and shame and guilt, that is going to show up in the people that we meet, and the connections that we have outside. It's even going to show up in our physical environment, and it's when we change that inner perception and what's happening on the inside, that it changes on the outside. The same way that I believe the way that we perceive ourselves is the way that the earth, Mother Earth, shows up for us. There's a lot of inner hate and shame in the world, and it shows up in the state of the actual earth itself not being in the best form. So I do think it's that real inner and outer kind of dynamic there.
Yeah, man, that's a powerful perspective, and I definitely resonate with what you were saying there in terms of, as above, so below, as within, so without. And it's a beautiful reminder that we can take responsibility in our own choices in our own lives, and that will have a big impact on our environment, on our on our circles, on our relationships, and on the world. So that's fantastic, Alex. I'm really grateful for your time to join us today. Just curious if you had anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap it up today. If anything you want to feel is relevant.
No, I like what was spoken about. I think ending on that piece right there, and that is that, like, the internal work is where it is. That's the real work. And it's so easy. And I talk from personal experience here. It's so easy to dance around that inner work, or to just distract from engaging it. And it's when we have the courage to go deep and go inside and look for that little piece of light that's within us, when sometimes it's complete darkness. That's where the work really is. And if I was to bring it back to sauna, the businessman coming out. If I was to bring it back to sauna, that was actually the reason why we chose the name Found Space, because when people are in sauna, they find space for themselves, and within that space, that's where the work happens, and that's where the change and the transformation comes from. So that was why we went with the name in the end.
Boom, man, that's powerful. I love the name and I love the message. Thanks a lot for your time, Alex. Thanks to those who are tuning in and listening to this or watching the video. If you want to become a member of our exclusive conscious media platform, Earth Heroes TV, just go to earthheroestv.com. We'd love to see you in the community. Otherwise, Alex, I want to thank you once again, man, and wish you all the best, brother. Take care, eh?
Right back at you, bro. Thank you.
See you, man.